that's okay with everyone, I'm going to start. So I will say an official hello to everyone. Very warm welcome. Really wonderful to have you all here. And as I mentioned to those of you, we have still got people joining right now. This started off as just a small call, but it's sort of grown and grown as more people have found out about it. So it's really wonderful to have so many people here today from all different backgrounds. And there's a common theme for all of us, which I kind of thought I'd pick up at the beginning. And I think basically everyone that's here today, the common thread between us is that we all generally believe in the power of one-to-one relationships to transform lives. So I know we've got lots of people here running independent visitor services. We've got people here from amazing charities. Chloe's just popped up on my screen. So we've got Become Charity here. So people working with care leavers and all sorts of people that are just dedicating their life to doing that work that really helps young people or vulnerable people have access to that one-to-one support. So that's what all unites us. And I guess probably a lot of us then also have the same question, which is, whilst we're doing that, how on earth do we keep these one-to-one relationships safe without compromising the fluidity and the momentum of those relationships? So for those of you, I know that I've met most of you here, but I know quite a few of you have been invited by the people. So for those of you that have not met me before, let me just introduce who I am. So my name's Fran Borman. I'm the founder of an organisation called Goal 17, and we are best known for creating care leaver mentoring programs and other forms of one-to-one volunteering and mentoring, generally supporting any young person that's in crisis or a disadvantage, comes from a disadvantaged background. And we've been doing this for 7 years. We absolutely love what we do. We're super passionate about it. And we are so incredibly proud of our thousands of volunteers that we have all across the UK every day that go out and work with a young person and help them make the transformations that they want. So in terms of our work, we work a lot with local authorities, a few of them up there. So as well as working with private organisations. So we work directly with some charities, but also some businesses that are looking for ESG and CSR programmes. We've had some great success doing what we do. We've won all sorts of awards, being featured in all sorts of press. So we love what we do. But when I started this 7 years ago, there was one big challenge. In fact, when I started this, everybody told me it will never work because of this one big challenge, and that was safeguarding. How do we connect these amazing volunteers with these young people and truly know that those relationships are safe? So as I'm sure like many of you, we already do a whole range of things. So we do interviews, training, DBS checks, references, a huge amount of vetting for all of our volunteers that come into our programs. However, one thing always happens is that young people, as we found these days, and probably all of us to be fair, all of us now communicate digitally. So despite all of this vetting and checking that we do, there's always seems to be some level of communication that's going to go on that we're not necessarily going to have visibility over. And I'm not going to lie, it sometimes gives me sleepless nights because I think, goodness, we don't know completely what's happening there and how are we truly sure that that's being safeguarded. So when we started this, as well as doing that kind of vetting process, we looked at a whole range of options. And I'm going to share these with you because I'm sure many of you will have tried all of these options as well. So really kind of the options that we looked at fell into three main categories. So when we started doing this, we looked at, could we do no contact and only do contact with an intermediary? So for example, some form of intermediary email system, some sort of intermediary, sending messages to us and we send them out to people. And whilst that gives us that safeguarding element, it is incredibly slow. And we found that it just didn't work, and it also massively eroded the trust, especially in these relationships where actually this is about a young person, for example, having a relationship with an adult that isn't part of the system and isn't there to report on them. It suddenly made that really slow. So that didn't work for us. And some of the research that we've done recently around young people have said that we've sort of discovered, and young people have told us, it takes 2 to 3 months of sort of erratic kind of informal communication for a young person to build a relationship with an adult. And more young people are telling us that needs to be digital. So just necessarily meeting up with them can sometimes feel like too much, but a little bit of messaging here and there creates that relationship. And of course, if there's that intermediary, that becomes really difficult. So that didn't work for us. Then we looked at using separate mobile phones, or I'm going to call them outdated apps. And I will put my hand up because we even developed our own app, trying to create an intermediary system here. So we looked at getting all of our volunteers their own phones, but then we found that it was really expensive, and B, they would just forget to check them because they didn't want to carry two phones around. So that didn't really work. And then, as I say, we actually developed our own app to try and be that intermediary in between. And that didn't work either because it was just too clunky. And young people told us, and actually the volunteers told us, they just couldn't be bothered to go into an app just for one relationship. It was just too clunky. So again, that didn't work. And so really that left us with relationships that were based on trust and manual monitoring. Which is hugely time consuming for our team, constantly having to be in contact with people all the time. It's really hard to spot patterns and flags because you're picking up lots of different information and it's these touching bases. And we started talking about something called the compliance gap, whereby you sort of go, yeah, we're ticking all the boxes, we're doing all the right things, but actually, is that just because we're ticking the boxes, or are we really doing the right thing or not? So again, we didn't find that was working for us. And so quite literally, I feel we tried every method, and I ended up feeling a bit like this, to be fair. That is how I was feeling when it came to thinking about safeguarding. And the main reason I felt like this was that even when we put all of these methods in place and we said to our volunteers, you must not contact your young person other than using these methods because you're putting yourself at risk or putting them at risk, we still found that they blinking went onto WhatsApp, and that we would find out that they'd exchanged numbers and they were on WhatsApp. And it doesn't matter how many times, and I know I've spoken to loads of other organisations who echoed the same thing. And this is we used to say to them, if you do this, you are putting yourself at risk of an abuse claim. And let's just touch on that for a second. As far as we're concerned, that's morally unacceptable. We just cannot be putting ourselves in that position. But also, as one of our insurers told us, if you have an abuse claim, you can expect it to cost you between £300,000 and £700,000. So all of that good work that we do everywhere else suddenly would stop because suddenly you've got something that you weren't able to control. Of course, it increases insurance premiums, huge reputational damage, and in fact, in many cases, brings down organisations, let alone removes staff and volunteer turnover because of their morale drops, and of course regulatory intervention. So again, really can't be going there. So with all of that, we then decided, what are we going to do? And long story short, this is where the idea for Wowment came up, because we got so fed up of telling people not to use WhatsApp. We asked the question, could we meet people where they're at? Could we find a way to safeguard that communication in WhatsApp? And by Jove, we've blinking done it. It has taken a lot of development, a lot of time, but we have actually found a way to do safeguarding and fluid communication on WhatsApp. So what does this look like? Well, quite simply, we are now able to connect two users through WhatsApp without them ever exchanging their contact details. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how we've done that and how it works. I'm not going to bore you with technicalities, but I will explain to you how that works. The power of this means that connection can be switched on and off. So if somebody, if we ever have a concern about a relationship, at a flick of a button, we can switch that relationship on and off. It also means that we can then have some AI that's running in the background that is constantly monitoring those interactions without dissolving or damaging the confidentiality and privacy of those relationships. So we've done a lot of testing with young people to find out, are they happy with this? Because let's be really clear, there is some monitoring going on, but it is not a human, it is AI. And time again, young people are saying, yeah, no, that's fine, that's cool by me, as our volunteers. But it means, again, we've now got some constant monitoring that's going on between all communication. So here is how it works. So typically in a WhatsApp conversation, people exchange their numbers, they add each other and so on, and the communication goes directly between one person and another. Now, all we've done is we have basically stuck a piece of patent pending technology in the middle. So what this means is that when the young person messages us, it's like they're messaging their mentor or their volunteer, because they're using a normal WhatsApp number. It is just like a normal WhatsApp chat, but it's actually messaging our, if you want to call it a bot, it's messaging our technology. And what that then does is it then sends that message directly on to the person that they're matched with, and vice versa. So for the users, it is exactly like a normal WhatsApp chat. It appears with a normal WhatsApp number at the top. There are one or two minute differences, but other than that, it is just like a normal WhatsApp chat. However, it is coming through our technology as it goes. So they don't know the difference, other than, of course, we do tell them so that they opt in, and they understand what they're consenting to. But other than that, once they're in the chat, there is absolutely no difference. Other than a few tiny nuances, but again, most people don't even notice those. And the power of that, again, means that we now can control that, but also it means that we can do a little bit of processing on that part in between, and that's where we can use this AI for safeguarding. So what does this look like in real life? And I wanted to, I thought about demoing it to you, but it's almost so simple. It was just easier to do screenshots. So quite simply, we have a back-end platform that all of our team use, and they go in there and they can put in the young person's name and their contact number, and the volunteer's number and their contact number. Now, this can be arranged into programs, so we bunch people together that are, say, part of, if we're working for Surrey County Council, we have all our Surrey County Council young people in one program, and it's called the Surrey County Council program, so that it's relatable. So we literally just go and put their name and their number and click send invite. And then what happens is that young person receives a text message on their phone that says, you've been invited to a mentoring program by, and it says the name of whichever organisation or what program it is, and it encourages them to send us a text message to this number, so that they click that link and they send us a text message. So when they click that link, it actually pre-populates the message that says hello. They send the hello message, and then it comes back and it tells them about their privacy. So it gives them access to look at all of our user license agreements, privacy policy. So if they're interested about how their data is going to be used, they've got access to all of that. And once they're happy, they click yes, yes, I opt in, and boom. The second they click that, they are now technically on our platform, and we can now engage them in those one-to-one relationships with that safeguarding. So what happens next is our program administrators go into the back into the system. They can see everybody that's created a profile, and then they select the two people that they want to match. So they come back here, they select, this is me and Beth, one of my staff. We often use this one to play with this, and they click match. And hey presto, instantly both people then get a message that says, great news, you've now been matched to this person. And it says, if you want to message them directly, click this number, and they can then message that person directly. And when they click that number, they then literally open a new chat, a separate chat with that person, and it is like that. This is where it is just like a normal WhatsApp chat. I mentioned that there were a few minor differences. Occasionally we put in, you have a new message from your mentor or mentee when they have to renew it. It's a technical thing that it sometimes just puts that at the beginning of the message. But other than that, it is just like a normal normal WhatsApp chat. So they can chat as normal, they can send files and documents as normal, and we even have a system whereby we can also send them personalised reminders. So because we've got that ability to do a bit of processing, if, for example, we know that they should be meeting once a month, say on a lot of our programmes, we ask the volunteer mentors to meet with their young person once a month. If we know they haven't, we might just send them a little gentle nudge and say, hey, we noticed you guys haven't met up for a while. Why not catch up with each other? So we can do a few nudges, which are proving really helpful to maintain that momentum in the relationships. And they can also have video meetings and voice calls. That's one of the things where it's slightly different. It's not quite the same as just hitting the call button. They have a different thing, which is like a different menu where there's an option to click meet, and then it will open up a personalized video call with them where they can then have that video call. But the cool thing about that is that if they do a voice or a video call through the app, it then gives them an AI summary of their discussion. So again, if they're in a kind of mentoring relationship or an IV relationship, both of them get a little summary AI generated. It's purely there for their own use. But a lot of them have said they absolutely love that because it kind of gives them that track of what they've discussed and what's happened in their relationship. And as many of you will know, that especially for young people in care, there's this real push at the moment around kind of logging your journey. So we found that loads of young people have loved this because it really helps them log their journey. And then if they ever have a meeting, say, off the platform, and they go and meet face to face, there is a facility in there where they can log their meetings. So, for example, on our independent visitor services, we ask all of our volunteers to go in there, and it's, again, super simple. Rather than filling in an online form, they can go in there and log a meeting on the platform within WhatsApp. app. Again, just makes their lives a bit easier. They can log when they met, where they met, the time they met, and any kind of notes they want to put on there. And it again creates this really lovely record. So super simple for the users to use. And then what happens on the back end for us as program administrators is we then also get a whole amount of anonymized data. So some anonymized, but some just very basic data. So we're not sitting there reading their messages, I think, and that's really important to the young people that we work with, that what happens in those relationships is kind of sacred to them. However, we do get some really great data. So for example, we can see, and hopefully you can all see this on the screen, we can see how many meetings they've logged or held digitally and how many messages they've sent back and forth, and whether their relationship is active. And that again is super powerful for us to be able to just know whether those partnerships are progressing, kind of get a sense of whether they're moving forward, and you can see the dates of their meetings. But then you can also, and we are at the moment working on kind of the next version of this, is get to the point where you can also extract some super interesting data out of this. And I know some of you have come here because you were told about our impact report. So for our national care leaver mentoring programs, we just released a 48-page impact report on all of our work across our care leaver network. And amazingly, a huge amount of the data in that report came directly out of Wowment, because what we can do is effectively extract through the AI things such as themes. So not on individuals, but on a program as a whole. The AI can look at all of the conversations and the meetings and everything that everyone's had and start to look for data and trends. So one of the things that came out of our report from using this for less than 6 months was it started to pick up that there were 5 key trends that our care leaver mentees were talking about with their mentors. Super helpful data for us to really show the impact of that. And by the way, if anyone who hasn't seen that impact report, happily send you a link to it. We're very kind of open and honest about what went well and where we can improve in it. So there's some really great learnings in there. But it also gave us some other really interesting data. This was from a program that we did just for a couple of months for the NCS as they were closing. And from this, we were able to see the average number of messages, how frequently people messaged each other, and so on. And it's it's lovely chunky data, and over time we can use that to really show some really interesting trends. But where this is so valuable is in the sense of when we go to commissioning, to be able to say, look, this is really working, people are really meeting. When we were able to sit round with the NCS and say there have been 2,179 interactions in this program in the last month, that's really helpful data for them to go, I think we should refund this. So this kind of data is really helpful for us for commissioning, and we are working more and more to start to understand the needs of that and where that's most helpful, and looking at a new dashboard coming later this year so we can extract out what is right, again keeping that confidentiality and privacy kind of top tier, but then what is acceptable both to our users and helpful. So that's one of the great things we can do. And then I've mentioned about this AI safeguarding. So at the moment we are in what we're calling version 1.0. It's live and it's functioning. And what this does is it's monitoring those conversations. It's learning at the moment, but most importantly, it's preventing the sharing of personal contact details. So it's raising signals and alarms and preventing that kind of thing if that happens. But version 2.0 is now in production, and that's due out in autumn this year. So already just with version 1.0, we have seen this is just game changing for us from a safeguarding point of view anyway, just knowing that those relationships, but the next version is just going to take it to the next level, because what the next version will do is it will continually monitor all of those conversations, and it's doing 2 things. It basically has a traffic light system. Actually, I'm going to put all of these up. So the first system is it's constantly monitoring and it's scoring. So I'll give you an example. We're talking about this with our data scientists. Say a volunteer says to a young person, "You look hot," as an example. Now that might score, okay, hold on a second, what are they talking about? And it might give it a score to go, that sounds a little bit inappropriate, but it might then check and say, yes, it's been a really hot summer's day. Okay, so maybe we don't need to worry about that so much. So it's looking for potential things, but if it starts to see small trends, things that maybe don't look quite right, or maybe it's also able to analyze sentiment. So if it's starting to realize that maybe a young person is feeling more uncomfortable with this relationship and so on, it's going to start providing a score, which might then alert to say, okay, I think somebody should check in on this. The second thing it's going to do is actually send automatic alerts. So if it'll have a set of rules that if something is seen as fundamentally not appropriate, it will automatically alert the program coordinators. And the third level will be immediate blocking. So for example, if something happened that we were like, the AI and that we set the parameters to go, that is inappropriate, it will temporarily block that relationship and obviously alert a program coordinator. So again, it means that whilst people are having this communication, they of course will get feedback and understand what's going on, but it just means that again, we've got that. This is never going to fully replace human interaction. And one thing I think I should say is this is 1,000 times better than what we're doing, but we're not expecting this to completely replace human interaction. We're fully expecting program coordinators to be able to be there and to go, okay, hold on, there's been an AI alert here, we maybe need to pick up a phone call and have a chat to them and find out what's going on. But rather than that being the norm and what happens every single day, and that's the only way of you catching things, this is starting to create those alerts and that trail in case there is that issue. So that is effectively the technology in a bundle, and I'm sure people have probably got questions. But I guess really, I just want to share with you what it's done for us. So we have implemented this now with 7 of our local authority partners in the programs that we're running with them. And quite frankly, we've been blown away by the results. Like, we thought it would be good, but it's probably been better than we thought. So we've seen a 2 times uptake in young people getting involved in mentoring in the first place. So twice as many young people, when we're inviting them, are actually getting engaged and doing it. And then when they are engaged, we've seen a 300% increase in engagement rates. So on a like-for-like program basis, this is completely game-changing for us. And we're seeing relationships are starting, forming and sustaining much better. One of the super interesting things that's happened is more and more young people are telling us that mentoring for them doesn't have to be about a face-to-face relationship. It can be about that really fluid, conversation. Hey, I'm just about to put roast chicken in the oven. How long should I put it in? Who's saying that's not mentoring and saying mentoring is just a face-to-face meeting? So we're seeing these wonderful relationships that are forming really well because they're able to have that really fluid communication, and have it in that safe and protected environment. So absolutely huge results. And dare I say, there is no doubt that this has helped us secure further funding. We've just secured a whole year's worth of further funding across all of our programmes, and being able to have this data and be able to show the safeguarding and have the data, it's hard to pinpoint it, but it definitely made life a lot easier to secure that funding. So for us as an organisation, it has made an absolute massive difference. Now, I'll be really honest, we only planned to develop this for ourselves. We were being a little bit selfish. We wanted something that would work for us. We weren't planning to offer it to everyone else originally when we started this, but we've had more and more organisations say, yes, they're starting to hear about it and say we want to be part of this. So we've made a decision to invite 10 founding partners to come join us and do this. So they will be the kind of the muddy boots partners that will come and work with us as we get through to the next development of this. As I say, it is all fully functioning and working super well at the moment, but we've got ambitions to grow it and improve it even better. So for our 10 founding partners, we're going to give them full access to the Wowment platform. So all of the back office, all of the ability to support and connect young people, and all of that functionality, the tier 1 safeguarding, the data collection and all of that. However, we are going to be super grateful for the first 10 founding partners, so we're going to throw in a few other things as well. We kind of thought, how can we really honour these amazing first 10 founding partners? So obviously they're going to get priority access to all of the new features. So safeguarding 2.0 that comes out and the new impact dashboard, all of that will be given to the founding partners as soon as it's available. We're also offering free one-to-one onboarding and setup. We've been told that we should be charging about £2,000 for this, but quite frankly, we'll just do it for free because we want some success. And this is very much about us giving this to the world, so that others can have the benefit, and quite frankly, so we can help more young people. We're going to do some free funding focused workshops. We want to share some of our insights of how we're using this data to get more funding, because I think that's really helpful. So rather than just kind of saying, look, you can use the data, we're going to show you what we've done because we've found a system that's working for us. And also we're going to help organisations do their first free impact report in the same way that we've done the care leaver one, again because that has been really great for us as an organisation, and we want to do that. So we've been suggesting what we should charge for these things, but we just thought let's just kind of give it away. And we'd also love to invite those free founding partners to join in some of the public recognition. I've actually just been contacted this morning by a big organisation in the United States that wants to do some publicity about this. And as much as we like to talk about it ourselves, we'd love to shine that light on any other kind of pioneers that join us on that. And we'll also arrange some kind of roundtables to bring together the different people that are using this to share best practice, not just about this, but just in general, share best practice. So we've been told we should be charging about 17k just for that alone. But again, we're not really in this for the money. We're in this to kind of help some young people. So what we've looked is how's best to structure this. We've obviously got to cover our costs, and to be really clear what our costs are in running this is a little bit of staff time, obviously some developer time, but most importantly, it's the kind of cloud data storage. So we're looking at kind of a monthly funding model for it. And so we've come up with 3 packages because we know that we've got organisations that are of different interests and different sizes. So we've come up with a starter package, which is 50 users, growth 100, and pioneer 3000. And what the cost to use those will be from 2,500 to 13,500 for 12 months usage. So that means for 50 users, you can have this fully up and running with all of our support and all of that extra help. And I guess just putting that into perspective, that is less than 50% of what we were paying to have mobile phones for our volunteers when we started as just a small program. And actually, we also, one of my team kindly worked out for me that even if we had somebody doing 2 hours a week chasing mentoring calls, that is cheaper than somebody spending 2 hours a week chasing mentoring calls. And they were talking, my team were telling me it was more about the time they spend leaving messages, not actually talking to people. So I thought, okay, fine, fair enough. But I think most importantly, it's less than 1% of the cost of a safeguarding claim. And I think that is really where it's important. And dare I say, I've already had a few insurers contact me saying that they're interested in understanding this. We've also promised that we will fix that pricing for at least 3 years. We don't know what will happen as more people use this, but we've promised that we will fix it for at least 3 years. So as I say, we've got 10 founding partner spaces because I don't want to over flood this. I think we want to take it gradually and grow it. I'm sorry to say that prior to this call, the first 2 spaces have already gone. So Dorset Youth and Tottenham Hotspur's Foundation have already taken the first 2 spaces. So they are already, they sort of jumped in first and have got going. But I have at least 8 spaces left, well, not at least 8 spaces left. So really, if anyone is interested in joining this, we just want to get this out to as many young people as possible and start as many of those relationships going. So if you're interested, there's my email address, and I'm going to shut up now and leave some time because I'm sure there will be some questions. If anybody has any questions, please do let me know, and would be more than happy to answer any questions that anyone has. If everyone's okay, we'll stop sharing the screen. Happy for people to put them in the chat or to put it anonymously in the chat. So Samantha, I've got your message. I will forward that report on to you, no problems. I will send that through. Anybody got any questions? I know that I have just spewed a whole load of information at everybody, so apologies for that. Oh, I think the first question is coming up. Bear with me, my screen has just gone and done something funny. Okay, Samantha, cool. Samantha, yes, we will pick up a chat. Samantha's just asked for a separate chat. That's no worries. Richard, go.
Hi,
Richard's got some. Hi, Richard.
It's Fran. Hi, I'm from Wiltshire Safeguarding Vulnerable People Partnership. I just wonder at the kind of the program administrator end,
Yes.
Is this kind of, I'm thinking like IT permissions and things for the kind of the side. So how do the team access this?
Right. So this is for your internal team.
Yes.
Do you mean? Yeah. So every account has an unlimited amount of what we call them program coordinators. And your main program coordinator has a choice about who they let in and they don't. So the program coordinators have that they have a separate dashboard that they log into. And once they log in there, then they can see everyone, they can see the different programs they've got and who's in which program and where people are at and all of that kind of stuff. So there is those different, that's fully accessible. Again, it's got all the kind of fancy things that we ended up realizing we had to build in there, such as password, if somebody forgets their password and all of that kind of stuff. One thing I should say from a cyber security point of view, this meets all the top standards in terms of security and encrypted messages and cloud storage. And again, if anybody thinks that they've got an IT department that's going to need to look at this, please don't worry, because we've already been through that with the other partners, and we've got all of the documents that those IT departments usually need to see in order to give them the understanding that this has been built in a secure place. But sorry, there was an additional answer, something you didn't even ask there, Richard. But yeah, so you can have as many program coordinators as you want on them, and then they can be in the back end and do that. And the program coordinators also get some automatic emails. So for example, when somebody new joins, you can set it so that they get a notification so they know to kind of go and check in as well. So that's all set up. That will probably evolve and develop over time. Just reading, so bear with me. Richard, does that answer your question? Yes, thumbs up, I'm guessing. So just reading through some of the stuff in the chat. So yes, Rebecca, absolutely happy to send the slides. So I'm just going back up. Maria, happy to send the report. Tim, happy to send the report too. So I'll send that. I might just send that out to everyone if that's okay. I'll send you all a link to that so you've got that. Apologies if you've already seen it. I'll just send it out as well. And Mark, yes, I'll send that out to you. And Steph, yes, I'll send that out to you. And yeah, I'll send everybody the slides so you've got those as well. So I'll send the slides and the report out to everybody after this. So yes, please don't worry about that. We'll get those out. Rebecca's asked, do we have a minimum contract term if we come in on this? I think we'd have to probably do 12 months because we're going to spend quite a bit of time getting it set up for everybody. But so I think the minimum would be 12 months on that. But after that, yes, let me know if anybody's got any other thoughts on that. But I think so you can probably work out, we're slightly working this as we go along because as I say, we built this for ourselves, not for others. So we're trying to work out how to make it work for others. Tim, we'll come to you next.
Just thinking about the kind of where it alerts for any kind of potential problems and investigations and stuff. Does it very much depend on how long that kind of takes to resolve, or is there like a time span, for example, that can you give us a bit more information about that?
Yeah, so and again, this might be something that our founding partners also help feed into because the process that we're developing at the moment is based very much on our experience. So the idea with the alerts is that we're training this AI model to kind of look for what are the typical things that you would find are inappropriate in a relationship and in a conversation with a young person, and we'll then grade those based on what is what is a real serious concern and so on. Now, in terms of resolving those issues, the idea is that we would then alert, for example, Tim, if you were using this, we would alert you and say, look, we've blocked this partnership because this has happened. And it would give you a very short summary of why it's been blocked. And it would be up to you to decide then whether you want to go and unblock it or not. So you wouldn't necessarily have to, you'll have a little button that goes, yes, okay, unblock, or actually then you can decide if you want to keep it blocked. So it would be very much up to you to decide whether you wanted to. I don't think it's our job to decide that because we won't know the characters. It's giving you the tools to make sure that you're alerted and then can go make the right decision. And the reality is sometimes it might be a little bit overcautious, but I suspect again it's just that making sure that it's appropriate and it's providing that safeguarding. The fully blocking would have to be something pretty obvious, something pretty inappropriate. The alerting you to kind of go, okay, something doesn't seem quite right here, that might be a little bit more frequent. But again, it's kind of directing you to where maybe more monitoring is needed than others. Does that answer your question, Tim?
Yeah, that's fab. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Chloe.
And so good to hear about this tech, and well done to you and your team for developing it and bringing it here to share. I just had a question about kind of expected opportunities for usage by other partners and whether do you envisage this same tech in the way it works now could be used beyond volunteer delivered mentoring and instead to kind of volunteer delivered other types of support? Like how specific to mentoring does it feel?
Yeah, so Chloe, it's a great question, and actually it answers Bridget's question in the chat. So I think as long as it's doing good in the world, we're happy for it to be used anywhere. So to give you an idea, I was actually contacted the other day by an association of driving instructors who have just found this and gone, do you know, that's one of our biggest challenges is we're working with 16, 17-year-olds and we're alone in a car with them, and we messaged them about their meetings. Could it be used there? So we're really open to how it's used. I think the only caveat we'll be putting on that is it's got to be doing some good in the world. I don't really want it to be used to, I don't know how. I'm sure there's somebody that can think of a bad way to use it, and we would make sure that doesn't happen. As long as we're value aligned, I think that's fine. So yeah, I know Bridget's asked about women in leadership and business, so we've already had a couple of requests about that. So it doesn't. I guess I'm sharing with you our user case why we developed it, but I think there's a whole vast range of use cases, and we're really open to exploring those. Thanks, Chloe. So Richard asks, can volunteers, mentors set their available times in the system? And if they're unavailable, can the system reroute that message, pick it up for a young person who is in crisis? Richard, really interesting question. And I'm actually quite pleased you asked that. So I think you remember I told you we developed an app before, and we built in all sorts of functionality like that. And people bloody hated it. And we found they didn't use it and they just found it confusing. So actually, at this stage, we're probably not going to build in anything like that into this, because we find that actually it just, once you add in those layers of confusion, it gets further away from what young people know, and what they know is just how to send a WhatsApp chat. It does raise the question of what happens if a young person was in crisis. If they were, again, if this was a tool to a social worker, for example, it might be that there has to be an alert system on it. But I think we're more envisaging it that they would have a separate crisis procedure that they would follow. One thing I would say, and again, this would be super interesting with some of you guys as partners to kind of get some feedback on, is we do have an ability with the kind of AI automations that we could set up something whereby if it did pick up that something was in crisis, that it automatically did another action. So that is something we can definitely look at in the future, because all of the rest of the tech is there to do it. So that is completely possible. But at the moment we're trying to keep it super simple, because again we found that once you add that complexity, people just stop using it. And as they say, a confused person does nothing, which is why our utility bills are also confusing, because they'd rather not do anything than switch our providers. There we go. a little fact from my previous life. Emily has asked, can you talk about how the numbers of participants works? Are mentors frequently continue their mentoring beyond the programme? Do the users have to discontinue the service at the end of the relationship? So Emily, really interesting question. So the way that we're working on this is around license numbers. So what we have to look at from a cost perspective, and to try and keep the cost down, is what is the cost per user, and that's usually generally around the data and the cloud storage and stuff that we need to make this function. So the way that we're managing this is that you have a license, and you can assign that license to anyone. So if you offboard someone so that they're not actively using it, and we then call that they're archived, then that doesn't use one of the licenses. So if for example in some of our programs, I mentioned that we did a really short program for the NCS, all of those volunteers have now been archived. So technically they're not using the licenses anymore, but we can reallocate them and rematch them to somebody else. So once they're in there, they can be reallocated and rematched again. And all that happens then is that the one slight, I suppose, different thing is it continues on the same, obviously it's the same WhatsApp number, but it's very clear when it ends that it's now ended, this relationship is ended. And then when the new one starts, it's like, oh, it's a new relationship. So whilst it appears on the same thread, it's there. And again, it's something that we may expand to in the future, is to have multiple channels. That is one limitation that I will say, is at the moment it's only one channel. So if I am a volunteer, I can only at the moment have one mentee or one independent visitor partner, whatever it might be. In the future we will expand that to other channels. It's just quite a complex technical process apparently. Bridget says, do you envisage being white labelled with partners and okay in commercial use cases? So again, yes, we do suspect it will both be white labelled. We do expect eventually it might even become an API. For any of those that know about these things, I'm on a steep learning curve here, but eventually it will probably become an API that other people can plug in and use how they want to use it. But we are happy for people to use it commercially. And I guess at the moment it does have the chat channel does have the little Wowment logo at the top, but you can actually name the chat channel what you want. So so as it goes forward, it'll be able to be a little bit more adaptable in terms of white labeling. Any other questions? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate we finished a bit early, but everybody likes 20 minutes back on their Friday. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If this sounds like something you would like to use, if you want to take one of those 10 founding partner spaces, please reach out to me. Obviously, you can use the Wowment email address or my Goal 17 one. I'm obviously using both of them. Really, thank you so much for your support here. We really hope that we can get lots more people using this. Samantha, yes, I've seen your message. I will hang around. And actually, anyone else that wants to hang around, please do. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. We'll follow up, find out if you want to take one of those places, and we'd be really interested in hopefully in lots more young people in those amazing relationships, and dare I say older people. There's probably loads of people I haven't thought about that this will benefit, so we'll look forward to that. Thanks so much. If you're going, please do. I've just got another question that's come in from Richard, so I will stay and answer it. You're welcome to stay, but if you do want to go, please go. How soon do you envisage being able to onboard people in the founding 10? Great question, Richard. We could do it today. So we've got everything for those 10 founding partners set up. So fundamentally, we can do it pretty quickly.
Sorry, my question was, after the 10 slots, when will more slots become
the next
available?
one's really great. That one I'm going to need to get back to you on, Richard, because
Okay, no
I think I just need to make sure that I don't give my tech team too many grey hairs, and I'm nice to them. I hope it won't be too long, but I will let you know as soon as I know the answer to that.
That's great. Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. Thank you guys for all the lovely messages in the chat. Thank you, Bridget. Shall we catch up at some point? I'm sure. Thanks, Claire.
Yeah,
thanks,
definitely,
Mark.
Fran.
Thank you, Fran. Thanks for the invite too.
Yeah, really lovely having you guys here. Really lovely to meet you all as well.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Oh, thank you, Esther, for your comment in there as well. I think Esther's gone now. Chloe, all good? So let me stop recording. Hold on.
Thanks so much.